really struck me as being an amazing performance by the fella. And of course, this was reflected in newspapers. Sterling sticks it to the races. Southgate slams dinosaur Hungarian fans as England run riot in face of vile abuse. Sammy Mockbell in full flow in Friday's Mail. England raised tempo to silence the racists and take control of their destiny. It was Jason Burt in Friday's Daily Telegraph. Theatre of Raheem's, starring role for Sterling, Dave Kidd in Saturday's Sun, and Booze Brothers. United England rally round Sterling and Southgate demands action after racist dinosaurs scream vile monkey chants. John Cross in Friday's Mirror. And we'll come on to Oliver's piece about Sterling per se in a second, Sean. But, you know, I hate that we have to talk about these things, and we will be talking about England's fans a little bit later on as well. But also, if we don't, then we're not doing our duty. But just on a footballing thing, how brilliant was Raheem Sterling to he has just taught himself to play, win the game, and he can't ignore what's going on, but to play even in that horrible atmosphere.
Yeah, and Southgate has great faith in him to do it. You remember that sort of run he went through where he scored, I don't know, 2 goals in 46 games or something like that, and then just hit a purple patch, and all the time Southgate has had faith in him. In fact, it seems to me that Southgate has more faith in him than Guardiola does. He always finds a way to get Southgate in, to get Sterling into the team.
Yeah.
Whereas Guardiola doesn't always. Me and Ollie were just talking in the break. He did, of course, play him in the Champions League final when we didn't think he would, but then they lost that one. It's just that Southgate, it's almost like he puts him on the team sheet even before Harry Kane. He just knows what he's going to get out from him. And I think he looks a more confident player in an England shirt. I mean, he's not a bad player for Manchester City. He's an excellent player, but in an England shirt, now he's like almost the team leader, the boss, the go-to guy. He's just...
And as you say, actually, that's flipped around, hasn't it? I think it was the other way around at one point where definitely. England seemed to... He struggled with England. He had that barren run that you mentioned. And now it's... I think during the Euros, he was our most potent attacker. People was, saying how tired Harry Kane looked. Sterling was the one who dug us out when we were struggling to score, and he was the best player in Hungary as well. So he is, as Sean says, he's in a purple patch for England.
Well, look, I mean, whatever about the way the transfer didn't happen during the summer, Pep Guardiola, you may have noticed, is no mug when it comes to organising a football team, and he will have noticed too that however Raheem is playing for Manchester City, he tends to play very, very well for England. And of course, his partnership with Harry Kane is not the same, but it's often, I think, reflects the way Kane plays with Son at Tottenham, and the Manchester City boss may have in his head that with what could we call it, a proper centre forward in the team, Sterling is even more effective. And it's about his role at Manchester City that you wrote a really, really interesting piece, I thought, Ollie, and in the Mail on Sunday. And I'm not just blowing smoke here because I know it's a good piece because I read it with great interest and didn't agree with it all. So that's always my sign of a good piece. You said that Manchester City, quote, have cast around for a new goal scorer and failed in their Harry Kane quest, but his England teammate was their answer all along, meaning Raheem Sterling. What did you just lay out your argument for people?
Well, I know what your opinion was of the way that the sort of Harry Kane deal was being set up by us all, and everybody was sort of shouting up Harry Kane to go to Man City from Spurs, and that didn't happen, but. We'll all remember that as part of that deal, and Sean would know, Sean is much better informed about these kind of things than I am, but as part of that deal, when it was being mentioned, the idea of Raheem Sterling being used as a make weight to go to Spurs, to tempt Spurs to sell Harry Kane was being widely touted around, and
not really being knocked down.
Not really being knocked down, and there were, it was almost kind of not being accepted, but people were not raising an eyebrow about the idea that maybe this was kind of the end of the road for Sterling at a Champions League, a Champions League side, a top 4 side, which Spurs aren't at the moment. And that did surprise me a bit, because I think Southgate talked about this yesterday. That I don't go along with the idea that Sterling is disrespected anymore, but I think I think he sometimes doesn't quite get the credit for the things he's achieved. And it goes beyond... You mentioned earlier, Danny, about the way he holds himself for England, and you're absolutely right about that. I think he's become a very dignified symbol of defiance in the face of some of the stuff, some of the racism that is aimed at him. He's an incredibly powerful symbol of defiance. But he is... he is a first-class footballer. I think he's in his prime, as I said in that piece. He scores people complain about his finishing. Maybe he does miss some chances, but he gets an awful lot of chances, and he scares defences rigid with his pace. I think he's using the ball more and more intelligently. His runs are becoming more and more intelligent. I just think with the kind of ability that City have got all over their side, somebody like Kane, they are bound now to play a false nine, and Sean and I, again, were talking before about whether we like that particular system or not, rather than having a sort of more conventional front man. They are now committed to playing that kind of system. I don't really see many people better out there than Raheem Sterling to be at the centre point of that. If we accept that maybe he's not going to get as much time in Manchester City's first team, particularly now that Jack Grealish is there, it makes absolute sense to me to play him down the middle.
Do you think it's right that he's had to make the compromise, almost, that he's going to have to accept you're not going to get on the left side of City's attack because Jack Grealish has turned up, so we're going to have to turn you into something else, in effect?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, City have just got such a good side. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Grealish. So, but I would look. If I were Guardiola, I would do my utmost to find a way to play Grealish and Raheem Sterling in the same team. I mean, you've got an embarrassment of riches there. Well, put it this way, Sean, I would pick Raheem Sterling ahead of Ferran Torres every time. But,
Well,
maybe that's a nationalistic thing. I don't know.